Welcome to a very special session. This is a holiday session because I'm on vacation right now, as some of you know. Anyway, welcome to the session, the live show. We start in 2 minutes, and I'll give a few shout outs before that. So let me know in the comments box wherever you are, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook right now, LinkedIn. Let me know in the comments box where you're from. Perhaps say something interesting about you, and let's see who we've got so far. So a few of you started commenting immediately. We went live, and so we have Robin Joyce is here from Moscow. Let me just pull them up so I can see where it's sunny and 14 degrees. So hi there, Robin, great to see you. And then over in Houston, we have David from Houston. David Colts, great to see you, David. We have Maha is here from Connecticut in the USA. From up in Saskatoon, we have Janine Hamilton, who's been busy with her bees collecting honey. Hope you're much better now, Janine, and feeling better. We have Linda Rolfe is here as well from Orlando, and Charlotte Derbyshire is here from Hampshire in the UK. I normally pull the names up on the screen, as you know, but for some reason those ones came in so early, they didn't come through my feed properly. So who else have we got? Let me know. We have Jessica is here. Hi there, Jessica. Hope all is good with you. Down in Florida, Sheila Flesher is here from she's from Edmonton in Alberta. Hi there, Sheila. Great to see you. I think so far I've recognised every name. If you're brand new, by the way, never been to one of these sessions before, just let me know. Put new in the comments and I'll give you a special shout out. Kelly Yvette's here from sunny Cornwall in the UK. Hi there, Kelly. We have Donna is here from Bradford, also in the UK. Lots from the UK today. Awesome, and it sounds like the weather's pretty good in the UK, which is unusual, I guess. I'm in Spain right now. If you're not too sure, I'm in Spain. Just having a few weeks out. We have Joshua Jacobs is here from Arkansas. Hi there, Joshua, over in the US, and then my good friend Gary Wong from the San Francisco Bay Area. Hi there, Gary. And I'm really, really pleased because Janine is feeling loads better. That's good to know. I'm really pleased. Awesome. So I make it on the hour, which means we can get started pretty quickly. Rather than messing around, I want to bring on our guest speaker very soon. Before I bring on my guest speaker, as you all know, one of the things that we do with every live session. Hi there, Brian, also from the UK today. Karen from Birmingham, not in the UK, but Birmingham in Alabama. So one of the things that we do is we make a contribution to a project to make the world a better place through the amazing B1G1 organization. Something that my special guest today is also really behind that movement. And so let me just share with you, if I've got it to hand, I should have, the project for today. So today what we thought we'd do is help people out in Kenya, where obviously farming, agriculture is really, really important to them. Getting access to water is a challenge. And so for each and every one of you who is live here today, we will be making a contribution to help sponsor and build irrigation systems. So thank you so much for being here live on these sessions. When you are live, you help make the world a better place through B1G1. Okay, with that said, before we carry on, I forgot to check with my guest about questions, but if you have any questions for him, then stick QQ in front if you have a question, and we'll get to those and deal with them. So who is the guest? Who is my guest? My guest here today is my good friend, one of my heroes, mentors, Steve Pipe, who has had a huge impact on my career. And Steve, you're going to be talking about how a step-by-step process for writing a book and how it's going to help you to win clients, get better work. Is that correct, Steve?
It is indeed, Mark. Yeah, absolutely.
And how's things with you, Steve?
Yeah, fantastic. There's a little bit of background noise out here because someone's cleaning our drive. It's a lovely sunny day here in Yorkshire, although clearly looking at our two tans, the weather's somewhat different between Yorkshire and Portugal. Who would have guessed?
Who knows? Yeah. Okay. And so Steve, very quickly then, if people do ask you questions, we didn't check beforehand, but I don't know how you want to deal with that. Do you want to just leave it till the end, or do you want to just pause a couple of times?
I suspect that what I'm going to cover is going to be so thorough that there may not be questions. But if there are, there's a good. It's quite probable that the answer to the question will be covered later anyway. So my suggestion is, don't. If you've got a question, write it down on a piece of paper. If that question is still unanswered towards the very end, and I suspect will be just under an hour or so, if it's still uncovered towards the very end, at that point, ask the question, because otherwise I'll be answering questions out of order and the content was come in, and so I think that's the best way, if that makes sense.
Awesome, that's fine with me, Steve. Okay, well, with that done, Steve, I mean, I could go on and on for introducing you, but I think most people here know you and know I've had you a few times on my various webinars and so on. And I think most people know that you're one of my heroes and have had a huge impact on my life. So there's probably not much more I need to say. I'm going to hand straight to you.
Thank you so much. I mean, thank you for the introduction, as always. Thank you for the platform, as always. I'm going to be talking about, as you know, something which I am really passionate about and something which we have done together, which is writing books and using books to build an accountancy-based business, to help grow that business, to help drive that business forward, but also to bring joy into our own respective lives. Now, just by way of background, these are some of the books I have written, and I've never really presented around this topic, and I didn't, when I wrote those books, have a step-by-step guide. But I look back now, I'm 60 this year. In fact, this is my 60th birthday glass of water mug. I look back over those books and sort of pull together what I think is really the key learnings from many books and some mistakes along the way, but a lot of success also. And so what I'm going to try and distill into an hour is those key lessons that will make it so much easier for every single one of us on the meeting today to go away and create their own book. And in fact, there's even a possibility that we could create a book together in 14 days at no cost. And if anybody's interested in that, we'll jump out for that towards the end. And one of those books, absolutely, Mark, we co-wrote together, and many of others of them you inspired me to write. So yeah, let me just go back slightly, and I'm using some different technology this time compared to last time. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to master it. So my book writing story, I mean, you saw there's a lot of books. I think there's 11 or 12 in total, but it says 8 on here, but I think that's the wrong number. It's extraordinary that I've even written one book, because at school, by far my worst subject was English. And in fact, if you'd gone to any of my teachers and said, will Steve ever write a book, or indeed write anything that ever gets published anywhere, the answer would have been a categoric no. And that was absolutely crystal clear in the grades I got. I got much, much better grades at maths and economics and history, and really poor grades in English. So it is staggering, or rather it's interesting, that someone who really conventionally isn't equipped to write a book has written so many. And that's the really good news, because we might all be feeling that we're not equipped to write a book, but I promise you, I absolutely promise you, that if I can do it, everybody can. And what I was able to do with those books is, the first one was published back in 1995, so we're talking about 26 years ago. But what I was able to do with those books back then was get a lot of press coverage. This is one of the 3 or 4 binders I've got full of press coverage that because the internet didn't really exist back in the early 90s. So what I would do is I would publicize the book for free in the local media, and I would generate leads off that, and I would get meetings with people at which I gave them my first book was called 101 Ways to Make More Profits, and it was obviously aimed at business owners, and I would give the book away for free at meetings with those business owners, but of course that meant they had to meet me, and as well as giving them my book, I would also pitch to them as their accountant, and I picked up most of those people who took my book as clients as well. So it massively grew my business. It actually opened doors. I ended up writing an 8-part BBC television series called Easy Money, because they'd seen what I'd written in my first book and were interested in taking some of that and putting it on television. They ended up putting me on television a few times. Some of the other books later in my career ended up getting me speaking engagements around the world. And loads and loads of great clients. In fact, we picked up one client directly. This book was available on airport newsstands back in the late 90s, I guess. And the owner of a very significant comedy venue, chain of comedy venues in the UK, found it, read it on a plane, liked it, reached out to us, and we picked them up as a client. And this was punching way above our weight. And the books also helped unlock multiple awards, and crucially, and most importantly, all of that added up to, we were able to build from a spare bedroom a 40-person business. And I say we because actually Mark and I did that together, a 40-person business in the accounting space, helping accountants, mostly consisting of accountants in the business. So the story is a really interesting one, but it's pregnant with opportunity for every single one of us, regardless of where we are in our accounting or bookkeeping businesses and where we are on our journey, our writing journey. Because I was nowhere on my writing journey when this book came along, or when rather I came up with the idea for that book. Now, back in those days, you really needed a publisher because self-publishing was vanity and it was awful and it was really appalling. Now I don't think you need a publisher at all. I mean, I did get a publisher for my first ever book, 101 Ways, and it was Kogan Page, great publisher. But most of my books since then, I have not wanted a publisher. I'll explain later why. I mean, essentially, you lose all control. You even have to buy copies of your own book for a significant amount of money. Whereas if you produce it yourself, if you publish it yourself, you don't lose any intellectual property, and you don't have to pay anybody else other than maybe a printer to distribute it. And if you print it and distribute it in digital form, you don't have to pay anybody else. And now Amazon has changed the game completely. So back then, in the 90s, it was relatively tough, and yet I still was able to do it. Today, it's incredibly easy. So you absolutely will be able to do it. So really, that's my story. That's really where I'm coming from. So I sat down and codified, or tried to codify, the lessons from all of that and bring it together into a step-by-step guide for you. So the key benefits, and this is the really interesting, let's always, remember what this is about. What books did for me, what books will do, or one book, you only need to have one book. I just happen to have lots of things to say. But the key benefits from your one book are enormous credibility because you're a published author. And if you follow the process we're going to look at today, a lot of high quality leads and referrals, a much higher rate of converting your leads and referrals into actual clients that are happy to pay you higher prices because of the credibility. And not only those business benefits, 1 to 4 are business benefits, there's a huge personal benefit. There's a benefit to you individually. I cannot tell you how proud I was when my first book was published. The book was dedicated to Carol, Laura, Jonathan, and Katie. Without them, life would be unprofitable. And we'll come back to dedications a little bit later. But my family were tremendously proud as well. So the joy, the pride, the emotional rewards, and the financial rewards are extraordinary. The one thing, though, that you should not expect from this, from your own book, unless you're J.K. Rowling, is you will almost certainly not make money from book sales. But who cares when all of those other benefits are so much more real? I mean, yes, I got tiny royalties on some of these books, but that's categorically not what it's about. It's about those other 5 things at the top of the page, and the benefits in those areas can be absolutely phenomenal. Now, I sat down and I thought, well, if I were doing this again, and where do I now start with my most recent books? I'm writing a book at the moment. I wrote a book last year. I've got one more in plan for next year. And in fact, love to feature every single one of you in one of those books. Maybe we'll talk about that later. But I think the 4 starting points are not starting to write your book, but starting in these 4 ways. First, you've got to identify your purpose. I'll explain what I mean by each of these in a second. Then you've got to decide on the theme and title for your book. I'll give you some clues in a second. Crucially then, and this is not obvious, but it makes a huge difference, then you've got to create the artwork. And then you've got to go public before you've written a single word apart from the title. And let me explain why those 4 things are absolutely the place that you must start, where I absolutely now do start every single time. You've got to start with, what's the reason that you want to write the book? Now, for me, the reason has always been twofold. It's been variations on this theme from book to book, as you'll see, because I've had different audiences for some of my books. But mine has always been, I want to write a book that's going to make things better for other people. This book, the first one, showed business owners how to make more money, how to make more profits. That makes things better for other people. My most recent book helps to make things better in the world. It's always a making things better for other purpose, primary purpose in fact, and the secondary purpose, but nevertheless a very real one, is lead generation for me. And a book is a brilliantly simple, a brilliantly powerful, a brilliantly long-lasting lead generation tool. So those have always been my purpose, and that flows through into the process that I've developed. But I'm fairly sure that that will also be a great purpose and a core to the purpose for your book too. Because we're as accountants, we're in professional services. We provide service. We help other people get better results. Measure their numbers better, change those numbers into higher profits, better cash flow, better net worth, and so on and so forth. We're in the business of making things better for others. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be part of your purpose. And we're in the business, I guess, of wanting to attract better quality, more nicer clients, and lead generation, I suspect, is part of your purpose too. But you've got to sit down and think, is that just your purpose, or might you have some other purpose? But if those are in your purpose, then the process I'm about to explain will work brilliantly for you. So that's the first place to start. Decide on your purpose. And then once you've decided on your purpose, then it's a question of, I suggest the second step is to decide on the theme of your book that's going to drive that, that's going to lead to that purpose, and a title, and crucially a title. So I've written my books over the years for two primary audiences. Back in the earlier days, my primary audience for my books was accountants in practice. So the UK's best accountancy practices and the world's most inspiring accountants, both of which were in hardback, and both of which I published myself, by the way. I didn't want a publisher taking control. I wanted to be in complete control, and I would, as I say, strongly recommend that. Those were the themes and titles for my first two books, primarily aimed at accountants. But most of my other books have been aimed at anybody in business, at business leaders, business owners. 101 Ways to Make More Profits, Stress-Proof Your Business and Your Life, How to Make a Better Business and Make More Money. That's the one that Mark and I co-wrote together. And there's an interesting story about how that came about. Better Business, Better Life, Better World, Our Time to Rise, and the one I'm currently working on, in fact, the world's most inspiring businesses. I can't decide your title for you. I can't decide your theme for you. But I would suggest that there's something along the lines of 101 Ways to Make More Profits, or Stress-Proof Your Business, or How to Build a Better Business and Make More Money. Take a variation of those as a starting point and start thinking about, and we'll look at how you can draw the content together, because I didn't know anything about any of these subjects when I started, but I decided that was the title. Those were going to be the themes. So you're going to have to then choose a theme and a title. I can't really do that with you, but if you want to chat with me afterwards, or on a subsequent occasion, if you've got some ideas, well, I will happily bounce around thoughts and bounce back additional complementary ideas to you. So I'm very, very happy to do that, help you with your theme and title. The third thing, crucially, once you've got your title, and this might surprise you, but is to get the cover of your book with the title. Obviously, that's why it's the step after you've got your title. Get your cover professionally designed, and then turn that cover into a mock-up of the book. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean something like this. This book, Our Time to Rise, before it physically existed, it existed in art form like that. I had the cover professionally designed, and then I bought some software that allows me to turn the cover into both a mock-up of the book, a sort of three-dimensional kind of mock-up of the book, but also then puts that book, your book, in various settings. Now, why do you want these images? Because as you're going to see in a second, you're going to go public before you've written a word. So you want some marketing collateral, some images that really dramatize what it is that you're doing. The book in its purest form, the book in relevant, appropriate settings next to a computer and so on, the book being read, the book in the hands of people looking at it and so on. Now, the good news is I will help you create. I'll use my software for you for free to create all of those if you would like me to. Once you've got your cover professionally designed. So that's the crucial step, which then allows you to do step 4. And step 4 is go public. Now, I know you haven't written a word yet apart from the title, but I absolutely believe that this is the right thing to do. And for 2 reasons. One, because it will create a real buzz in you, in your team, in your audience, in your customer base, in your prospects, in your marketplace, in your community, in your family. It'll create a real buzz and energy. And crucially, when you go public, when you say, I'm going to write this book, this is what it's going to look like, this is what it's going to be called, there is no turning back. Which, how many times have you started something or want to start something, but then sort of fallen off the wagon because other stuff gets in the way and you kind of forget or you run out of steam? Whereas if you go public, there'll be no turning back, and all those benefits we saw before will flow through to you. Whereas if you don't go public, life will take over and your book will probably never come about, which is why I think this is the crucial step. Now, how do you go public? You send out emails and do social media posts and so on, saying, look, I'm going to be writing this book. Anybody, would you be interested in the topic? Does anybody want to pre-register for a free copy? Is anybody willing to review it once I've written it? Or maybe even, I've got 2 different cover designs. Which of the 2 covers do you think I should go for? Whatever form of engagement, whatever way you find of going public, the crucial thing is to go public, is to tell your team, is to tell your marketplace, is to tell the social media world, is to tell your clients that you're writing the book, because then it'll create the buzz and there'll be no turning back. So those are the first 4 steps, and you can do those in a matter of hours. Even less probably, but you certainly can do, in terms of your actual effort. It might take the designer a few days to take your title and turn it into a cover, but you can do the other bits of it and then go away and do other work in just a matter of minutes, in fact. So that's where I would start. That's where I now do start. In fact, to help you make a start, and in fact, if Sarah would be kind enough to put up freebie 1, I've got 2 big freebies for you today. The first one, this one, is I will instantly, she's going to give you a link, which is a page at which you can download this book. Even if you've downloaded it before, please download it again, because that will do 2 things. It will tag you in my system as someone that I need to send this extra stuff to, because I obviously don't know who's watching today. I don't have a delegate list. The only way I can send you the stuff that you might be interested in, the only way I can honor my promises to help you, is if you tell me who you are. And so the link that's in freebie 1 will allow you to both download the book, and even if you've got it already, doesn't matter, download it again. I will then also give you details of a brilliant designer so that you can get your book cover professionally designed. And then when you have got your design, I just send it to me, and I will then turn it into the mock-ups that we saw before, the artwork that we saw before. So I will do all of those things for you for free, but you have to put your details in. You have to tell me who you are, and the only way you can tell me who you are is by using that link. So Sarah has very kindly put that link up, and that will get you the book. And the book will also help you understand how I've applied many of the principles and processes in this step-by-step system. So that's your kind of very first action to take now. How then do you create the content for your book? You've now got the title, you've got your cover, you've created a buzz, you've made a commitment, there's no turning back. How do you create the content? Crucial tip, and this has been there in every single one of my books. Think in bite-sized chunks. You are not writing, you should not try to write War and Peace. You should not, I think, try to write a book that needs to be read from beginning to end in a linear fashion. My first book was called 101 Ways to Make More Profits. It's 123 pages long. So on average, each of those ways takes 1.2 pages. It's literally broken down into way 47, 48, 49, 50. Each of those is a standalone bite-sized chunk. That is so much easier to write, because you can write a bite-sized chunk, half a page, when you've got 20 minutes or half an hour or an hour, however long it takes. You can plan it out on Post-it notes. I always use Post-it notes. In fact, I plan out my sessions on Post-it notes. I have Post-it notes around the edge of my screen here as I'm talking to you. I planned it out on Post-it notes, which allowed me then to decide on the order afterwards. So each section, each little bite-sized chunk had its own post-it note. I could then organize them, according to chapters or according to some other process that made sense for that particular book afterwards. But be thinking of writing your book in small bite-sized chunks. Not only is that easier for you to write, because you can just write 20 minutes at a time without really thinking about the flow, and then you work out how to piece them together at the end. I'll explain how. But also, it's so much easier for the reader to read. If you have a War and Peace type book, you can't just turn to page 33 and get value out of it. You've got to start at page 1 and read all the way out to page 123. Whereas in this book, turns to page 97, and there's a way 79 is on crisis planning. Crisis planning tip was this relatively long 2 pages, but someone could read that in 4 or 5 minutes. They can dip into the book, they can get value, they can see how articulate, how intelligent, how useful, how valuable you are. They can make those kind of judgments that will get them working with you really quickly. If you write a War and Peace kind of book, they can't. So it's easier for them, it's easier for you. Think in terms of not only small and bite-sized chunks, but recycling your existing material. If you've blogged, if you've written fact sheets or information sheets or articles or newsletter material in the business, can you recycle some of that? I'm constantly recycling. In fact, this book, Stress Proof Your Business and Your Life, was essentially entirely recycled content. And again, broken down into, in this case, I think there are 45 ways, and that book is 145 pages long. So the average way is 3 pages. And the vast majority of those ways were taken by recycling chunks of material that I'd already written elsewhere. But when I did my very first book, I hadn't written anything else at all. So what I did was I went to the library, I got out as many books as I could find on making more money, profitable business, and I read them. And as I went through and I saw ideas, you obviously can't copy wording, you can't copy, because that's plagiarism, and that's, there's copyright issues, but there's no copyright over an idea. So if the idea, for example, is put your prices up, and way back in 1994, there you go, way 22 was price for profit. That was entirely my word in an entirely my way of taking a well-known idea, back then still not well enough done, and still today not well enough done, of course, which is why Mark is such a genius, because he helps us do it brilliantly. But back then it was still an issue. And so that was my take on that issue, triggered by something I read in another book, and making absolutely sure that there was no breach of copyright. So read and get inspired by the work of others, and then put your own take on it. And when you have that kind of approach, creating the content is so much easier than you would imagine. In terms of making it really easy for you to write, don't expect to write a War and Peace length book. In fact, as I've already told you, my first book was 127 pages. That's a short book. You can make it even shorter by inviting others to contribute. This one was co-written with Elizabeth. This one was co-written with Mark. This one was co-written with Paul Dunn. This one was co-written with 40 people. So was this one, and this one was with 2 other people. And then you can both use the book, and if you've got complementary skills, you could co-author a book with a business consultant or an HR consultant or a lawyer, or one of your preferably one of your clients, because then you're adding real value to the client by inviting them to co-author or at least contribute to the book. I mean, this book, for example, this book has I think it has about 60 chapters, each one of which is written by a different business. So, the work that we had to do to create that book was ridiculously less, because most of the work was being done by others, but it's still our book collectively. Interestingly, I have never actually written a book, in the sense that I've never used a pen and I've never used a keyboard to any great extent to write. I always talk. I use dictation software. I actually say the words, and there's several reasons for that. I'm a terrible typist. If you've ever actually watched me type, you'll know that I make 100 mistakes for every 200 words. Not only am I a terrible typist, but also, and I'm very slow, but also when we type, we become a bit too formal. Whereas if we say the book, if we dictate, what you get is a much more fluent language. Not only is it easier and quicker to get down, but it's easier and more familiar for people to read. So as opposed to getting caught up in our traditional technical bound formal grammar sense. So I use dictation software. You could, as an alternative to that, record an audio and then either get it transcribed or even get a ghostwriter. I know one accountant who had his book completely ghostwritten based on audio recordings of discussions. I always write in Word. For example, this book, which is quite a colourful book with all sorts of things in it, images and worksheets and all sorts, that was completely written in Word. And then you can export any Word file into PDF, and then you've got your digital book in all singing, all dancing PDF format, and you can edit it and change it as many times as you like. And that's this book. It's possible for me to produce an unlimited number of editions of this book. I would love, in fact, if I haven't already, produce an edition for you for free that has your name on the top. All you'd need to write is a forward, and that can be as little as a few lines. And then there'll be a version of this book which has on the top with a forward by Fred Smith or whatever your name happens to be, and then your forward would be in the book, and I can create that very, very quickly because I've used this process here of writing it in Word and exporting to PDF. And I recommend that you do that too. So you make it easy for yourself to write. You make it easy for the reader to read it because it's short. It's not War and Peace. It's short. Each of the chapters or sections I suggest is also really short. Not only was that easier for you to write, but it's much easier for them to read. I always then, once I've got my post-it notes, for maybe I've got 101 ideas, let's say, I then work out a sensible order for them by physically rearranging the post-it notes in front of me visually. That's quite useful with columns, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, with the sections within it. And then once that's all come together, at the very end, I write the beginning of the book. The first chapter is always, in my case, a kind of summary and an overview, but I don't start there. Once the rest of the book's in place, I then know what the content is shaped up as, and I write the first chapter as the last thing that I write in light of everything else that's in the book. And then that flows and fits so much better, in my opinion, anyway. I think you make a book much more interesting and valuable if it's not just words, but if it's got action plans, if it's got checklists, if it's got images. I think if you use a layout which is modern, lots of white space, not just dense text, but white space and headings and subheadings. And in terms of the language, that you feel free to use short sentences, short paragraphs. If I turn to a random page in this book, I have no idea. There's a lot of bullet points. There's a lot of white space on that page. That was just one random page. Let's turn to another random page. There's another random page. You can see there are no long paragraphs. There's one paragraph which is one line long. That just makes it so much easier for the reader to feel their way through. It also fills your pages more quickly, but it looks much more accessible. You've got dense text. This is an academic book, absolutely brilliant, but I'm pretty sure, look, that's the kind of page that if I get a page like that, I'm so put off. Great book, but it's off-putting, isn't it? So give it a modern, clean, white space feel. And crucially, and this was the thing that made the whole of the world of difference to me, follow Jane Austen's advice. Now, as I've already said, I was absolutely useless at English language, English literature at school, but I've since discovered that Jane Austen, who's widely regarded as the greatest writer of English literature, she was asked what's the key to writing really well, and she said that the key was to write as you speak. Now, back in Jane Austen's day, of course, when they met someone, they said, "My dear sir," which is why in Jane Austen's day, they started letters, "My dear sir." But we don't talk like that anymore. And yet we've got all these language patterns, all this form of grammar, which is a throwback to, Georgian times, Victorian times, ancient times. That's not how we speak. That's not how we should communicate in writing either. My strongest advice to you is to follow Jane Austen's advice and to write as you speak. So sentences can start with the word so, as that one just did. And they can start with the word but. That one just started with the word and, didn't it? But it's perfectly okay to start a sentence like that one just did with but. The point is, all of the things that we were taught, well, I wasn't taught, I was lousy at it, but English grammar, throw them out the window. We write not to impress an examiner, but to be clearly understood. And we are more clearly understood if what we write sounds like stuff that people hear all around them. It's more colloquial, it's less formal, it's less stuffy, it's more approachable, and it's so much easier for you and I to write. Especially if you go back to my idea of I always dictate. I say my books rather than write my books. And then the language and the sentence structure and the length of sentences, everything feels so much easier to the reader. It's not going to win prizes, it's not going to impress an English grammar teacher, but who cares? It will impress the person you want to impress, the reader. It will get through to the person you want to get through to, the reader, the business owner, the potential client. And as opposed to them thinking that you can only communicate in old-fashioned, formal, stuffy ways, they see someone who's approachable and modern and like them. And so they'll like you. And so they're much more likely to want to work with you as well. So crucially, follow Jane Austen's advice, which is why it's brilliant news, because all of those of us who don't feel completely comfortable in mastering English grammar and English literature, so what? As long as you can talk, you can write a book. Once you've then written your book, following those kind of, once you've got the first draft of this Word file, crucial, I believe, that you get reviews. So what I always do with the first draft of my manuscript is I send it to as many friendly people as I can. Clients, contacts, actual friends, in a purely social sense, business gurus, other authors. And I ask them if they would do me I ask them for their advice. People always love to be asked for their advice. So rather than asking for something, if you ask for advice, and the advice is, what do you think of the book? And if you like it, would you say a few words that encapsulate what you think of it? And you'll be amazed. People come back with extraordinarily positive, occasionally some feedback, but extraordinarily positive reviews. And then I always put those reviews on the back and front of my book. So there's a book, there's a whole load of the best reviews we've got for that at the back. And I'm pretty sure, there you go, and longer form versions of the reviews are inside the book. And if the review is really good, as this one was, I even put it on the front cover, because it adds credibility having reviews. And if you can get reviews from gurus, authors, send me your book. As someone who's written 10 or so other books and was once the UK Entrepreneur of the Year, and when it says, this is a fantastic book, you must read it, I might say something like that for you. It'll be signed off, Steve Pipe, former UK Entrepreneur of the Year. Adds real credibility, that kind of review. So you need to then get reviews. You get your draft manuscript before, whilst you're finalizing it, you send it out in draft. That way the reviews come back in time for you to finalize the book with the reviews in it. And then you turn it into a book. Now, I think the essential professional input you need at this point is the cover design that we talked about already, and they may also help you with the rest of the, the back cover, the spine, and maybe also the layout might help you tweak that a little bit, although increasingly I do my own, and a proofreader, because we cannot properly proofread our own work, because we don't see the things which someone else that jump out at other people. And professional proofreaders are extraordinarily good at spotting typos and when we're saying there, RE rather than IR there, and all the stuff. So a really, really detailed professional proofreader. Please don't rely on your daughter or your husband to do that. Although by all means get them to do it as well, but actually get some professional help around the proofreading, because what you don't want is a book that goes out looking amateurish because it's riddled with errors. You don't want the proofreader to edit. You don't want them to change the style and tone. The voice of the book needs to be yours, but you do want them to make sure there are no things in it that would embarrass you. In the past, I've occasionally used an editor, and I've occasionally used a typesetter these days. When I was publishing the books in hardback form and there were print formats and things, and when Amazon wasn't on the street, I used a typesetter and I used an editor. My brief to the editor was light touch. I don't want you changing the tone or my voice. I just want you correcting stuff that would look stupid. And the typesetter makes sure that the word file works properly when printed in a book, facing pages and page numbers and things. Actually, these days, Amazon takes most of the strain, and a good designer can get your book on Amazon without really a need for a typesetter. So my most recent book printed like this by Amazon with no typesetting at all. So what you must have is proofreader and cover designer. It's great to have a few physical copies of your book, because then you can physically brandish them. You can take them out to meetings. You can have one in your briefcase. You can have it on in your office table and physically up on the wall and so on. And these days, whereas when I printed my early books, that one I had to have 500 printed at a go. That's pretty expensive. They'll now print on demand. They'll print a single copy from as little as £3-4, $3-5. So you don't have to have massive print runs. You can get physical copies printed really, really inexpensively, as few of them as you want. You must, however, in addition to a physical copy, and a physical copy I would recommend just because it's a family heirloom. Give copies to your loved ones so that they're there forever and a day, and it greatly adds to the joy of being an author. But the real commercial benefit, I think, will come from the other two editions. The Kindle edition, you must have a Kindle edition, not because you're expecting to sell many copies, but because you can get to #1. And creating a Kindle book is a really easy thing for your designer to do. The Kindle, actually, we can do it ourselves. I just haven't personally bothered to learn how. You get your Kindle version, and we'll see in a minute how you can get your Kindle version to #1. And crucially, you want a PDF version of your book, because then you can give that away in all sorts of ways. We'll look at it in a second. And you can use the PDF version distributed free without involving Amazon, without them requiring a percentage in any way. You can use that for what this is really about, which is generating sales leads and turning them into clients. So those are my top tips around turning it into a book. Remember, if you haven't already, go to Sarah, if you'd put up that freebie 1 link again. Even if you downloaded Our Time to Rise before, please download it again. That will then flag you in my system as someone interested in this stuff, and then I will not only send you the book, which you'll get straight away by design, but also when you need it, I'll give you details of the designer, and I'll produce those mock-ups for you, and I'll also review your book if you would like, and give you a review of your book once you've written it, but only if you told me you're interested by filling in that form. So that's freebie 1 again. How are you then? You now got your book. How are you going to get a brilliant return on investment from the not very much effort that goes into it, but it's still going to take you a while? I'm going to give you a process towards the end that means you can get your first book done in less than 2 hours, and we can have it ready in the next 2 weeks. Less than 2 hours of work on your part, no cost whatsoever, and available to start distributing in 2 weeks' time. But we'll come back to that. How are you going to get a brilliant return on investment, whether it's on that book or on the book that's already going through your mind that you're planning on? Now, a lot of people have launch parties. I must say I've actually never had launch parties for any of my books. I guess I'm probably too lazy, but I've seen launch parties work really, really well, and I kind of occasionally thought, yeah, I should have done that. Where they go to a bookshop or even just a coffee shop or a venue of some kind, and they officially launch the book to a whole load of their friends and clients and family, and they have nice photographs taken with big piles of books, and they start to create a buzz, and then they use those photographs as part of the social media and marketing campaigns through email and social media to start generating and driving interest. So a launch party is useful. I've personally not done one, but I know people have done them and said it's been very, very valuable. It must be on Amazon. Your book must be on Amazon for credibility. But if you're creating that Kindle version, it will be. As I said before, don't expect many sales. Don't expect to make your fortune from selling Kindle or physical books on Amazon. That's not what this is about. What this is really about is the third bullet point there, which is selling via your own website. Because when you sell or give away your book, when you make it available through your website, if you sell it, you keep 100% of the proceeds, as opposed to Amazon paying you 60% or whatever. And not only that, if Amazon sell your book for you, you don't know who's bought it. Whereas if someone buys a book from your website direct from you, you know that it's Dave that's bought it, and Dave's given you his email address, and you can follow up with Dave afterwards. Dave is readers are sales leads when they buy it through your book. They're not a sales lead if they buy it through Amazon. So I always put really high prices on my book. So this current one is priced at $45. I mean, almost no one is going to pay $45. So you can't see it, $45. Almost no one's going to pay $45. I don't expect them to. It's at $45, so that when I sell it myself or give it away myself, I can greatly discount the price, and people want to buy it from me. They want to give me their contact details because they're getting it at $20 instead of 45 on Amazon. I can go to the market with offers. It is 45 on Amazon, but please don't buy it there. It's just 20 here. So you get more leads, you get more sales, and you get and you're in control. You know who they are, so you can follow them up. They're actual leads. It's also a great idea when you're distributing your book through your own website to bundle in extra value. Maybe the book comes with a telephone consultation or some other checklist which isn't in the book, or accompanying workbook, something else which is not available on Amazon. Gives people an extra reason to get it from you, because you want people getting the book from you, because that's how you start growing your business. They become sales leads. They go into your sales pipeline. You can then nurture the relationship. You can ask them what they thought of the book, whether they want any help with it, and so on. So sell it via your website, but also make it available for free via your website. We'll see how to do that in a second. I would always give physical copies away to my best prospects and introducers, because it would build my credibility in their eyes. I would send copies through the post to key people at networking events. When someone gives me their business card, I would give them my book in return. It's just a complete, wow, you got a book, that's fantastic. And then instead of wanting to go and talk to someone else, they want to talk with you. And I would use it as a freebie when I'm speaking, as a way. Put your card in your business card in the box, as it were, and take a copy of my book, that sort of thing. Or put your business card in there and I'll email you a copy of my book. So you're going to use it in a variety of ways to get a brilliant return on investment. You can get an even better return on investment by putting it on autopilot. You've got your PDF version of your book, which you then give away via a lead page, and you set up automated follow-up. So the page that I invited you to go to earlier looked exactly like this. It's a lead page. You put in your contact details, which means I now know who you are. That's because I'm going to be helpful to you going forward for free. I'm now retired, so everything I do is for free. Just to clarify that point. So I will not try to sell you. I have nothing to sell. I'm just here. I said that my reasons for my original books were always to help, and to help others, and that's the reason for this too. So you'll have a lead page a bit like this, where you make the offer. Here's your copy, and all the people have to do is put in their email details, and then the process of sending the book is automated. That will have happened already. If you put your details in, my automated system will have sent you the book. You'll have an email in your inbox, and if you can't find it, it may have gone into junk. And then I could have set that up with a whole series of other automated emails. I haven't. I'm not going to be bombarding you with automated emails, but you can. So the point is, you can put this on autopilot, and it makes it incredibly powerful and incredibly simple. And in the last week, I think about 15 people have downloaded my book. So that's 15 more. I don't mean today. I have no idea what's happened today, but before today, I think 15 additional people have given me their details, 15 more leads this week, albeit that I'm just giving stuff away. So you're going to create a lead page like that. I can show you how to do that later if you would like. But I'm going to suggest try and do what we did here, which is get your book. So this is one of the books that was actually, it was my idea and I drove the project. But back in the time, my two, Johnny and Katie, my now 27-year-old, they were twins. They just graduated. One of the things they wanted to do to build their CV was look different to other candidates. And so we wrote the book together, Better Business, Better Life, Better World. They were the editors of that book. And as you can see, it got to #1 in the business reference section of Amazon for paid books. So when their CVs went out, Johnny's now with EY and Katie's now in a senior role in a major retailer, really helped in their case get jobs. The book was actually great as well. So even my young, not they weren't young children, they were in their early 20s, but my recently graduated kids have got a book using this process, and that book got to #1 on Amazon for a very short while. You can get your book to #1 on Amazon in exactly the same way, and then crucially what you do is you take a screenshot of when it gets to Amazon. That's what I've done there, and they were able then to use this and include this on their CV. You'd be able to use this on your website and elsewhere forever and a day. Amazon #1 bestseller. How? Well, you've got your Kindle edition on Amazon, which is free to set up. You make sure that it goes in the right category. So we were in the category that included business reference for this particular book. You have a high price tag on it, $45 or so. This one was $45, but then for a 24 or 48-hour period, you reduce the price to $1. I don't think you can go lower than $1 on Amazon. You reduce the price to $1, and then you've emailed all of your contacts, all of your clients. You've asked everybody you know that if they would do you a huge favor, and on that day when the prices dropped to $1, would they buy a copy, a Kindle copy? And maybe in return you offer them some kind of thank you gift, if that's legitimate. I'm not sure about Amazon's terms of trade, but if it is legitimate, you can offer them some kind of thank you gift. Maybe it's a donation to charity or whatever. The point is, you drive everyone you know to buy that book for peanuts, $1 on that particular day. And what will then happen on that day is you sit there, you watch the Amazon league tables, you have it open every 15 minutes or so, you check, and you'll see your book rise up the league table, because those league tables are driven by sales in the last hour or so. And as your sales start, or the last day, and as your sales start to ramp up, you will almost certainly, if you ask enough people, get to #1. And once you've got to, wherever you get to, you keep taking screenshots. Once you're at number 17, you take a screenshot. Once you get to number 6, you take a screenshot. You keep taking screenshots so you don't miss it, because you have no idea which number is the highest you're going to get to. If you're lucky enough, as we did, to get to #1, you make sure you've got the screenshot as that as well. And then you can add to the cover of your book that little Amazon bestseller. You can get your designer to add the words, or maybe even some kind of graphic that says Amazon #1 bestseller, because for a short period it was an Amazon #1 bestseller, and there's the proof of it. You captured it, and that's exactly what Mark's done before, because it's a great strategy, and many of you will have probably bought Mark's books as part of that strategy. It works, and so you can have this Amazon #1 bestseller as well, which is brilliant for credibility and for the legacy and for the pride that your family will have in you and what you're doing. And then once you've gone to all that trouble of creating the book, then you can recycle and capitalize the content in all manner of ways. You can slice and dice your book, especially if it's written, this book with 101 ways. Each one of those ways was a one-off article, or a serialized article. You put 3 of them together, you've got a serialized article, or it could become a column, or you can take one of them at a time and chunk it down into blogs or social media posts, or short podcasts, or short videos explaining the ideas, or you take PDF extracts of your book, or you even take the book and audio record. You get a decent microphone, and you can create an audio book or audio sections of your book. Once the book's written, you can then just, at almost no effort, slice and dice, reuse in all manner of creative ways. You can also capitalize on the artwork, go public with the mock-ups right at the beginning. As I said, it's the very first thing you should do. But don't just use the artwork at the beginning, put it up on the wall in your office. If something's fallen over, and normally at the back of my room, I have this mock-up of one of my books. When it's over in the corner, it obviously looks a lot smaller. You can put it on the wall, you can have it standing on the floor. I have a light behind it. If you've seen me before, I've often got that. It's sort of illuminated, it's over my shoulder, it's drawn attention to it. You can put it on your business card, put the artwork on your business card. Obviously put it on your website and your social media profile. You can even put it on coffee cups and things, so that when people come in, they've got, no one misses that you've written a book. And of course, then you can put copies of the book, and you have copies in your car, in your briefcase, on the reception table, on meeting room tables, on the walls, and wherever else you can, to really capitalize and start driving a conversation and making people aware and getting people wanting a copy, and then having follow-up conversations around the content, and then offering them your services. A couple of other top tips, and we're about to finish. My top tip would be, number one, I would plant a tree for every physical copy sold, because when physical copies are sold, a tree has to be cut down. A wonderful message about who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, and your environmental impact is, if you're going to sell physical copies, plant a tree. So when we've distributed physical copies of our books, which these days are mostly digital, but we plant a tree for every physical copy distributed. And we also feed a child for every copy of this book downloaded. Planting a tree can cost from as little as 40 cents using B1G1. Feeding a child can cost from staggeringly, humblingly, extraordinarily, as little as 1 cent. So you could easily afford, you get 1,000 downloads, that's what, $10. 1,000 downloads is 1,000 sales leads. Celebrating 1,000 sales leads by feeding 1,000 children is just a wonderful thing to do. But not only is it a wonderful thing to do, but it also creates even more of a buzz about your book, because your book is planting trees and feeding kids, as well as helping the reader. I already talked about why you should have a high price on Amazon, so the book has high perceived value. When you give something away that's worth $45, people take notice. And then you've got scope to make an offer. We know it's worth $45, but please have it as my gift, or it's just $10 to you. You can be all sorts of creativity if you've got a high enough price. Give people, once you've created your book, reasons to contact you. Invite them to pick your brains on the content. Offer them a bonus workbook if they reach back out to you. Offer them an update service. Offer them training and support or consulting. Give people a reason, once they've got your book, to reach out to you. Once you've got their contact details, you can reach out to them, of course, but give them a reason to reach out to you, because then you'll get inbound sales leads as well as being able to drive outbound ones, as it were. And then my last couple of points. Remember to dedicate your book wisely. My first book was dedicated to the family. Subsequent books were dedicated to mum and dad and my grandparents and to my clients and to my colleagues and so on. So dedicate your book wisely, because this is a legacy that will bring huge amounts of joy. And use your appendices wisely as well. So I normally have 3 different appendices. The first one is thanks and acknowledgements. That's where you can actually say specifically thank you to Mark for the idea, or whatever, where you can thank your team, you can thank your family, you can thank the people that have influenced you, and so on and so forth. That makes them feel wonderful. You can be hugely generous in the thanks and acknowledgement appendix, and I would encourage you to be so. Then you have an appendix which is about the author or about the authors, and that's where essentially a version of your CV. You can sell yourself. These are the other wonderful things I do. Let's talk. And then I would normally encourage you to have an appendix that's called free help from the author. Give them a reason to pick up the phone or email you to get some kind of, you want to meet them, don't you? You want to meet people, because generally speaking, if we're going to win a bookkeeping or accounting client, you have to meet them, or at least have some substantive contact. How are you going to generate that substantive contact from the book? Offer them something first for free. A review, a discussion, a pick your brain session, or whatever you choose it to be. Free help from the author will drive even more sales leads if you have an appendix called free help from the author. Remember, when you do this stuff, the benefits are huge. Massive amounts of credibility, massive amounts of high quality leads and referrals. Much easier to convert those leads and referrals into new clients because of the credibility that the book has created. And much easier to convert those at higher prices because of the credibility. And moving away from the business benefits, you're going to make your family proud. You're going to make yourself proud. I can't tell you how proud I have been with every single one of those books. You're going to make yourself proud. You're going to make your family proud. It's something you absolutely can do, and you absolutely, in my opinion, must do. Now, to make it really, really easy for you, my second freebie is, if you want, I will help you over the next 14 days to get your own book, or rather to easily, in less than a couple of hours of effort, and I'll actually pay you rather than this costing you anything, get your name on the front cover of my current book, and then give you a license to distribute an unlimited number of copies of that book completely for free, so you can do all of the things with it that we've looked at today, yet it's only going to take you less than an hour, this particular part of it. And I'll also, if you would like, if you're not in it already, include you in my second book, which is one that I just, not this one, which is not yet, which I'm currently working on, which is called The World's Most Inspiring Businesses. If you're in that book, which you will be able to be if you like the content of this book, then you'll be able to call yourself officially one of the world's most inspiring accountants. You get a logo and a certificate and all that kind of stuff, all the marketing collateral to go to market, not only as an author, but also with recognition, recognized as one of the world's most inspiring accountants and bookkeepers. And those things together will allow you to win better, nicer clients, more clients. And as I say, we'll do all of that for you over the next 14 days. It'll take less than 2 hours of effort on your part, and I'll actually pay you rather than you paying me a single penny, cent, or dollar. And all you've got to do to make that happen is we'll into a Zoom room meeting with me at the end. So if Sarah would put up, if she hasn't already, the link for that Zoom room. As soon as Mark finishes this meeting, I will open up the Zoom room that Sarah's put the link up for, and I'll meet you on the other side. For most of you, I'm guessing that meeting will be about 15 minutes for one or two of you with questions, or maybe need a little bit of extra help. It might be 20, 25 minutes, but a short meeting on the other side immediately after this one, so that you can absolutely be sure of getting those benefits, because the benefits are huge, as we saw. The benefits are huge. The risk is that we just don't find the time. We don't actually make that start. We get it, but we don't do it. The stuff gets in the way. Whereas if we go this process, because I'm passionate about this as a brilliant thing to do for you, for your family, for the people that the book will go on to help, I want to absolutely make sure that you don't drop the ball, that you don't miss out, nothing gets in the way. So that freebie there. And remember, I am now retired, so I will not be selling you any services around this. I have nothing myself to sell you. I just want to help you. So that's what I've learned from writing lots of books over a period from my late 20s to 60. Hopefully that's been useful. Hopefully I've covered a lot of ground and probably answered most of the questions that might have occurred as we've gone along. But if there are questions, Mark or Sarah, then I'm more than happy to pick up on those now.
Yeah, hi, Steve. That was extraordinary. I was making notes, and it reminded me of a few things in the last book I did.
Teach you anything about writing a book, Mark. You've written even more than me.
There's a few things I haven't done, which I've made a note now for the next one.
Great.
So that was extraordinary. Right, we have just the one question. I think that we had two, but Mindy's was answered. This question was: is it more cost and time efficient to just hire a ghostwriter than an editor? What's your thoughts on that, Steve?
Well, I've never used a ghostwriter, so I can't speak from experience. My view is that, one, it will cost you money, and two, I don't know how. I mean, finding a good ghostwriter that really gets inside your head and is able to take your ramblings and turn them into polished words. My sense is you might end up with something that really isn't you, isn't your tone of voice, isn't what you meant, and therefore that the to-ing and throwing backwards and forwards might take too much time. So I do know, we both actually know someone, I'm not going to name him because I don't want to embarrass, but we both know a UK accountant who did use a ghostwriter and wrote a brilliant book as a consequence. But it was not much of a shortcut, I don't think. It did end up being a brilliant book, however. So I've never done it. I don't think I would recommend it, because the process that I've explained, for me at least, has been so easy that why would I go some other route? So I'd definitely encourage whoever it was that asked the question to try that process first.
Yeah, I'd agree, Steve. I've never gone down that route. I did actually. There is on my YouTube channel about 7 or 8 years ago, I did an interview with somebody who does do ghostwriting for accountants, but that was a long time ago. I don't even know if she still does it or not, but it's not a route I would go down.
No.
Okay, Steve, I know you've got another Zoom call, so I'm going to kind of wrap up. If you want to go and set up your Zoom room,
okay.
People have got the link, the Zoom room that Sarah's posted the link.
Yeah, we'll put it up again. That'll be great. And so I will do that. I just want to say a huge thank you to you, as always, for everything you're doing for the profession, for all of us here today, and a huge thank you to everybody for supporting today's session. I hope to see many of you on the other side if you're really, really enthusiastic about getting your book and tapping into those benefits. But even if you're not, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Steve. Speak soon.
Bye.
So that was awesome. I've got lots of notes as well. So anyway, you've got the link in the chat box. If you want to go and visit, spend some more time with Steve on that Zoom room, you are welcome to do that. Normally we have some closing music at the end. Today we're just going to end, and the reason for that is because, as I said at the outset, some of you know, this is actually a special vacation edition. I'm in Spain right now, hence the different backgrounds, and we're leaving Spain, or at least moving on straight after this. It's 6 o'clock in Spain in the evening. We're driving 4 hours down to Valencia, spending a day or so in Valencia, then driving across Spain back to Portugal. So anyway, those of you in the Value Price Academy, I will see you all next week because it's all of our sessions, Marketing Monday next Monday. So looking forward to seeing you there if you're in the Value Price Academy or the Bookkeeper's Pricing Academy. And if you're not, I'll see you online at some point the next time I do a live session, probably in 2 weeks' time, I am guessing. Okay, thanks so much. I will see you all soon. Goodbye for now.